On Larry King Now, Emmy-nominated actor Connie Britton reflects on her fan-favorite role as Tammy on Friday Night Lights.
In the movie, Friday Night Lights, my part really mostly ended up on the cutting room floor, and I thought, you know, the TV show is just gonna be a show about football and about this coach and about these guys, and I'm gonna be, you know, the cheerful wife. And I wasn't really interested in doing that. But Pete was very dedicated to the idea that we were gonna finally give these women in this culture and in this community a voice.
Previews the upcoming season of ABC's Nashville.
I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
Somebody dies. Can you believe it?
Somebody,
That's all I'm gonna
well,
say.
okay, then I need one follow-up question.
Oh, all right.
It's somebody prominent. Not a guy walking across the street gets hit by a car.
No.
Okay. Not you. Not you.
You've had all your follow-up questions?
Plus, so you and I will next meet
Yes, we will next meet in front of different cameras.
as Faye Resnick. And it'll be much more torturous because they'll say, stop, do it again.
Yes.
Stand over there, try
Yes.
this, don't you do it this way.
Are you gonna be nervous?
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest is Connie Britton, four-time Emmy-nominated actor who, for over 20 years, has tested herself on screen by embodying driven, complex women to the delight of audiences and critics alike. You've seen her play Tammy, a football coach's wife, in Friday Night Lights, great show. And now she's set to reprise her role as the country superstar Raina James on season 4 of Nashville. That begins September 23rd on ABC. She stars alongside Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart in American Ultra, which is out now, and recently was named a Goodwill Ambassador for the United Nations Development Program. Thanks for coming. And what does that job entail?
For the UN?
Yeah.
Well, good question. Because since I've been doing some work for the UN, I have been very busy working on Nashville. And so I've been constantly trying to figure out, okay, what can I do for them? How can I help them? And you know, for me, primarily, my focus with them is focusing on poverty eradication around the world, and with a specific emphasis on gender equality and female empowerment. So
Had to travel for them?
So this summer, I finally had the chance to travel and go to Africa. I went to Kenya and Rwanda with them, and that was where I felt like I was really able to see the work that they're doing around the world in action, and for me to get more information so that I can speak about it, you know.
And what do they want you to do? Talk?
Talk, and you know, I think as an actor, we all have a choice that we can make whether what we want our voice to be in the world, and for me, I've always decided that it would be nice to have a strong female voice, and I think in doing so, it is inspiring then to other women to empower themselves, and I hope to then let people know that women around the world can empower themselves, and that could actually have a huge part in eradicating poverty.
What'd you find in Africa?
Well, I've been to Africa many times, and I was actually really impressed, specifically with the two countries I went to this time. Kenya, the last time I was in Kenya was about 7 years ago, and I was really stunned by how much more sophisticated it is there now, and they've really made a lot of progress. And then Rwanda, of course, is fascinating because it's only 20 years since the genocide there, and so that's a country very much in recovery, but what they have done in the course of recovering is build their country from the ground up, and They are more progressive than any other African nation in terms of the number of women they have in parliament, the number of girls that they're educating through primary school. 40% of their police force is women. So it's actually, Rwanda's become a very impressive model, and that doesn't mean they've solved all their problems, but it is something that we can all look to. Even in the United States, we don't have 52% of our government jobs
like you,
by women.
Patricia Arquette, who was here recently, she does a lot of work. She's been to Haiti and the like.
Yeah.
And you're
Haiti's
similar
my
in
next
that
trip.
you're both in your 40s, right?
Yep.
And you continue to get work, which is not easy, is it? You
Well,
do.
I have, I think, sort of an unusual situation in that a lot of my most beloved roles for myself as an actor have come in my 40s. So I feel really fortunate about
What
that.
happened in the 20s and 30s?
You know, in my 20s, I was pounding the pavement. I went to college and, you know, was very dedicated to my education, and then pounded the pavement for a long time and started.
What was your break?
I did a movie called The Brothers McMullen with Ed Burns, and it was
great.
a teeny tiny little movie, and it ended up winning the Grand Jury Prize at the Sundance Film Festival, and that was my big break. It was all of our big breaks in that movie.
I interviewed Ellen Burstyn, and she said today, the industry is run by men, about men, and for men. You agree with that, or wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, to some degree, I think that has been true historically. I am finding that there is a change happening with that. I think that women are being very vocal about certainly wanting equal pay. I think that women, in particular in television, I think that women are really driving television and television roles now, and that's being driven by audiences. And you know, when you've got women in your audience, you're going to start to serve them. And so I think that model is being forced to change, but I think it's happening kicking and screaming a little bit.
Yeah. What about directing and other things? Women are getting in, but we've had Academy Award winners.
Yeah, you know, but again, I think it's a slow movement. And the show Nashville that I do has been very unusual, and I've worked in television for a long time, and we have had more female directors than male directors on that show. It's a show that was created by Callie Corey, a woman, obviously, and you know, so that's been great to be on a show that is primarily female-driven, created by a woman, and directed often by women.
Have you experienced sexism, do you think?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And yet, at the same time, I'm not quite sure why. I would think less than some, maybe. You know, I can't imagine anybody ever coming and saying to me that I need to change the way I look in some way, because they probably know that I would punch them.
Next, Connie and her critically acclaimed role as Tammy on Friday Night Lights, one in which she received multiple Emmy nominations for. Plus, Connie previews the upcoming season of Nashville. Stay with us. Before we talk about Nashville,
Yes.
let's talk about Friday Night Lights. How'd you get that part?
Well, I was in the movie Friday Night Lights, and that part I got by putting myself on tape and auditioning. And so I went and shot the movie with Peter Berg, who wrote and directed the movie, and Billy Bob Thornton played the coach, and I played his wife. And then a couple years later, Pete Berg decided to turn the show into a TV show, but it was really different because the movie is actually a period movie. It's based on the book Friday Night Lights by Buzz Bissinger and takes place in the 80s. But Pete decided to place the TV show in modern times.
Well,
modern
Texas
days.
football hasn't changed.
And it hasn't changed
High school
at
in
all.
Texas.
And it made it actually, I think, a lot more accessible to people. And so he asked me to play the role, and I said no many times. And because I felt, well, because in the movie, Friday Night Lights, my part really mostly ended up on the cutting room floor, and I thought, you know, the TV show is just going to be a show about football and about this coach and about these guys, and I'm going to be, you know, the cheerful wife, and I wasn't really interested in doing that. But Pete was very dedicated to the idea that we were going to finally give these women in this culture and in this community a voice. And he was committed to it, and I reluctantly said, okay. And
Pretty glad you did.
And we did, yeah. And we were very determined that that's what we were going to do.
Okay, Nashville. How did that come to you?
Nashville came to me. Callie Corey, who created the show, offered me the part and was very convincing about it. And at that time, I was actually in the process of developing a couple of other things. I had
Your own development.
Mm-hmm, and I was doing something with David O. Russell. And, you know, I had different things that I was wanting to do on the creative side, but I was so intrigued by that world of Nashville and the idea that I might be able to sing as the character, which, you know, felt like it would be really stretching as an actor for me because I hadn't sung in 20 years, probably.
Did you sing? You did sing.
Oh, but I mean, literally back when I was out of college. So it had been a long time, and I was very rusty. But Callie is married to T-Bone Burnett and assured me that he would be very involved, and I thought, boy, when else am I going to have the opportunity to play that kind of role and work with those people? And so I did it, and it's been a really great experience.
Your character's a favorite on the show, right? I mean,
yeah, well, it's a really fun world.
what can we expect in the anything you can? They don't like to tell you anything.
Oh, about the upcoming shows? Yeah. Well, no, I can't tell you.
Why is that such a?
Because it would, people who love the show, they don't want it to be spoiled.
Give me a clue.
I'll give you a clue.
Enticing clue that would say, oh boy.
I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
Somebody dies. Can you believe it?
Somebody.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Then I need one follow-up question.
Oh, all right.
It's somebody prominent. And not a guy walking across the street gets hit by a car.
No.
Okay.
Yes, somebody prominent.
Not you. Not you.
You've had all your follow-up questions?
Somebody dies. When we come back, we'll chat about Connie's new film, American Ultra. And Connie previews her newest project, American Crime Story, which of course is about the O.J. Simpson trial. And I'm in it. Don't click away. What do you think your character's allure is?
Raina James?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think she is. I think it's fun to watch characters who are larger than life, and you know, people who I'm playing. You know, the queen of country music. I'm playing somebody who's in show business, and I think audiences have a fascination with that. And we then get to see these characters, you know, behind personal lives and behind the scenes, and I think that is something that's really interesting for audiences and very appealing.
What about American Ultra?
American Ultra, well, American Ultra is literally a wild ride, and it's so fun, and it's stoners meeting the CIA, and it's taking genres that we love, film genres that we love, and then just mashing them together and making something hilarious.
Well, you keep working, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, when you call working actress, you are a working actor.
Yes.
We say actor now.
Parentheses, always tired.
By the way, you and I are going to be in a movie together. Television movie.
We are going to work
American
together.
Crime Stories. Yes. I play myself, which I always do. And you play Faye Resnick in the O.J. Simpson saga.
That's right, I do. I'm very much looking forward to our famous interview.
When they asked you about this, how did you get this? Did they call you and say, we want you to be Faye Resnick?
Well, this is Ryan Murphy, and I worked with Ryan Murphy. I did the first season of American Horror Story with Ryan, and loved working on that show and loved working with him and always want to work with him again. And I heard that they were doing this, and somebody had actually mentioned, they were like, you should play Nicole. And Nicole, of course, is really not
in the movie.
because she's poor.
The movie begins with the
Nicole.
car chase.
Right. So, but I kind of reached out to Ryan and I said, this sounds amazing. What is it? And so he thought that it'd be fun if I did Faye.
Is that hard to play someone? You've played fictional characters.
Yeah.
To play someone who America saw 20 years ago. It's been 20 years.
Yes.
On television.
It's very
Like, I know Faye Resnick, and I have to
know.
treat you as Faye.
I know. I mean, it's gonna be hard for you, probably.
Probably, but no, because
Well, it's definitely
I
challenging.
get to be me, yeah.
Yeah,
For
you
you,
get to
it's
be
more
you.
challenging.
But it'll
Have
be.
you met Faye?
I haven't met Faye, but I really want to meet her at some point. But I think Ryan sort of felt like it would be good to shoot it first and then talk to her. But I'm really dying to talk to her.
Well, I look forward to working with you.
I know, me too.
This is a good preamble.
This is.
We're going to play a little game of If You Only Knew, right? I just throw some questions at you.
Okay.
Remember the first boy you kissed?
Yes.
What was his name?
Oh my gosh, that is so embarrassing.
Okay, you don't have to know it.
Corey. No, I remember it.
Why is it embarrassing? How old were you?
I don't know, but it's still. I go back. Don't you go back immediately to how
Oh, yeah, I remember.
embarrassing it
Where
was?
was this? Where did it occur with Corey?
in Virginia,
Where? What city?
in Lynchburg.
You lived in Lynchburg.
That's where I grew up. I say that as if you're supposed
They
to
call
know
it a
that.
suburb of Washington. It's really not.
No. Lynchburg, let's be clear. Lynchburg, Virginia is not a suburb of Washington. It is 4 hours away.
It's Jerry Falwell.
We referred to suburbs of Washington as Nova, with some contempt. We were in real Virginia.
Best book you read this year?
Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed.
Funniest fan encounter?
Funniest fan encounter. When I was at the White House and one of the president's speechwriters told me that he frequently will lift direct lines from Friday Night Lights for the president's speech.
Really? Wow. Actor you've learned the most from?
That's a tough one. I learned from everybody I work with. But I worked with Kyle Chandler for 5 years on Friday Night Lights, and I would say I learned a lot from him because we got to work so well together.
Actor you'd like to work with?
Robert Redford.
He was here the other day.
I know.
Nice guy.
I love him. But we've known each other for years through Sundance and almost worked together a couple times, but haven't yet.
In our final moments, Connie will take your questions. We'll be right back. All right, we're going to have some social media questions for you.
Okay.
John Crabtree on Larry King blog. I read that you were supposed to star in Jerry Maguire. What happened, and were you disappointed you didn't get the role?
Second question first. Yes, I was devastated. And what happened was
You were going to be his girlfriend?
Yes. And it's kind of a long story, and I'll keep it brief, but I basically was given the script before Tom Cruise was even cast, because it had been sent to Ed Burns, who I had just done Brothers McMullen with, and he gave it to me because he thought I would be great in that role, and I just fell in love with the role, and I had a very early audition with Cameron Crowe, who was directing the movie, and then went through an entire process where they hired Tom Cruise, and so then I read with him, and there was a whole long period of about 6 months where they were, getting closer and closer to casting, and then I screen tested, and there was only one other person screen testing, and it was Renee Zellweger, and they ended up giving the role to her.
Ed Burns was supposed to do it?
Well, they had actually asked him to do it, but at that time he only wanted to be in his own movies, so he didn't want to do other movies at that time.
Doug Gallagher on the Larry King Now blog. Is it true you have a twin sister?
I do.
What does she do?
She is, at this point, a stay-at-home mom, but she was at one time a consultant to the Department of Energy, and she's
identical twin?
Fraternal, and we're very different. She would never be on stage.
Were you ever married?
I was.
Children?
Right out of college. I have a 4.5-year-old son now, obviously, not through my marriage, and who I adopted from Ethiopia.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a single mom?
I'm a single mom.
What's he like?
Fantastic. Amazing.
You traveled, you take him with
human.
you?
Yes, and he went with me to Africa this summer.
Gloria Garcia on Facebook. How did your gig on Spin City prepare you for the role on Nashville?
Probably, I would say that the role on Spin City prepared me for everything after Spin City, mostly because that was really my first big deal job, and I learned on my feet, and I got to learn from some of the best. Michael J. Fox and the other actors in that cast were just some of the best at what they do, and so I really learned so much from that I got to take to everything else I did.
Mary Estrada on the Larry King Now blog. Which relationship do you relate to more, Raina and Deacon or Coach and Tammy?
Probably Coach and Tammy, because it's a little less tortured.
And Live Heal Mind on Twitter. Is your documentary on Ethiopian orphans ever being released?
Probably not, because it hasn't been finished. And so much time has passed since I started it that I would really have to go back and shoot more footage, which maybe someday I will.
And Linda SBS on Twitter. What character of yours have you related to the most?
I would say, again, probably Tammy, although, you know, her life is very different from mine. You know, I think that there are different elements that I relate to with all my characters, even Faye.
Faye. So you and I will next meet.
Yes, we will next meet in front of different cameras.
As Faye Resnick. And it'll be much more torturous because they'll say, stop, do it again.
Yes.
Stand over there,
Yes.
try this, don't you do it this way.
Are you going to be nervous?
No.
No.
Well, I
You're
won't
playing
be.
yourself.
You're not nervous, come on.
No, I won't. You know, playing Faye is definitely, you know, and which is what's fun about it for me as an actor. It's you know, it's challenging because, you know,
We know her.
We know her. You don't want to screw that up.
You won't.
Okay.
We'll be great. Thank you, Connie.
Thank you. Such a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Honor to be here.
Connie Britton. Big thanks to you, Connie, for coming with us. Be sure to tune into the Season 4 premiere of Nashville, September 23rd, 10 o'clock Eastern on ABC. Check out Connie in American Ultra, out now in theaters. As always, you can find me on Twitter at King Things. I'll see you next time.